Well, thank you. I'm going to just open up with a couple kind of foundational questions for the committee here, and then move to my colleagues to ask their questions. The first question will be to our government witnesses. Ms. Mahan, I'll start with you, then Mr. Shive, then Mr. Miller. Can each of you just briefly describe your roles in administering the program and how you believe Congress can help mature and improve the implementation of FedRAMP cloud security and adoption goals? Ms. Mahan?
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. In terms of how can Congress help, I think with the pending legislation that we've reviewed, there are several aspects to the program in terms of increased reuse, increased agency participation in the program, as well as being able to usher in more cloud products through the authorization process to give agencies more technology to choose from. Finally, also, feedback is very important for the program. I'm a big believer in listening to our customers and taking that feedback to drive meaningful change across the program. So having a formal feedback loop, if you will, to receive feedback regularly, early and often from our industry partners, as well as government agencies, will really help drive the program to be more effective in the future. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Shive.
Great, thanks for the question. I have a formal role and an informal role supporting the FedRAMP program. The formal role is I am one of the Joint Authorization Board members, along with the DoD and DHS CIOs. Reporting to me is a team. I don't do all the work myself. There's a technical representative that is the primary GSA focus for assessing the technical components of packages that we're reviewing, the cybersecurity of the cloud service providers that are applying to the program. My CISO leads the team that does the evaluation of the packages and is filled with federal employees and contract augmentation staff employees. And I sit on top of that entire organization, the machine that's doing 1/3 of the assessment work on the packages. Informally, I am the CIO of a federal agency, so I'm a consumer of the product that FedRAMP produces. And I have input, and Ms. Mahan said that she solicits the feedback from the stakeholders who are interested in the program, and I'm one of those voices that is speaking into her and speaking with cloud service providers, looking for ways to optimize and make more efficient the overall FedRAMP program.
And any suggestions for Congress how we can improve implementation?
Yes. So I'm proud to be associated with the FedRAMP program in that over its 10-year lifespan, they have constantly iterated and tried to be relevant, not only with cybersecurity risk at the time, but compliance and risk management of the time. The team has done a good job of growing and shifting with the emerging cybersecurity threat and with the needs of the cloud service providers. What I would say is, as you're crafting and thinking about legislation, that you create time and space for the program to be able to do that, to continue to iterate over time, be less prescriptive, be more allowing of knowing that we can't fully assess what the cybersecurity threat in the future is going to look like, and that the team needs to have that agility built in through that any legislation that would be led.
Very good. Same question to you, Mr. Mill.
Yeah, so the Office of Management and Budget has a number of roles with FedRAMP. It is currently, the FedRAMP program itself is currently ultimately a creation of the Office of Management and Budget, and its authority comes from policy that OMB has set out. And the work being done on legislation to support FedRAMP would give the program quite a bit more certainty and stability, and so that's something that we are supportive and interested in continuing to work with you on. We also, in general, our office oversees the development of cloud security and security policies generally in the federal government, and is ultimately responsible for setting the tone as well. And one of the things that I think is really resonant with some of the other comments that you've heard here from industry and others today is really wanting to help support a truly robust use of commercial cloud services, big and small, in the federal government. Right? The federal government does not have to always be a late adopter, and sometimes it is more risky to be a late adopter. And the FedRAMP program shows a lot of promise in being able to enable that. So that's what I would answer for that.
Mr. Kovac, your company has several products that have been FedRAMP authorized, as you mentioned in your opening comments, as well as a variety of security levels. So that's pretty extensive experience that you have representing a cloud service provider in the federal marketplace. So I'm interested if you could discuss how this program has evolved over the years that you've been engaged in it, and what additional changes you would like to see the GSA and OMB and other agency make to reduce cost, to avoid duplication, and to enhance effective security in the process.
Thank you for the question, Chairman. It's a great question. Everybody learns over a period of 10 years, right? We're all going to get better. In the initial times, FedRAMP was onerous in many of the processes. It was getting its feet under itself, a lot of back and forth, not a lot of collaboration in the early years. It was you send your document in, your document came back. Security policy was changing, and it was changing in the middle of an authorization, and therefore you'd have one policy, and all of a sudden you have to go back and change it again. And what you've seen through a tremendous amount of work and effort from the FedRAMP office is really getting that process very, very automated, very collaborative. And I think it's allowed us to be much more nimble in how we approach a FedRAMP authorization. You talk about many of them. I've done authorization. It took 4 years, and back in the early days. And I bragged at Ashley here that I think we have the record of 2.5 months for a FedRAMP jab high. So there is, and for a very, very large system. So we obviously there's improvement. The improvement is there. It's matured over the years, and I think it's matured by number one, by obviously there's the natural maturation of any process throughout the years. But I think also that they've been able to really learn from the more and more packages that come through. They've learned what to look for. What are the things that can trip up a agency? What are the things that can trip up a CSP? What are the things that trip up an agency? And I assure you, if anybody has ever sat down in a room and done a boundary discussion with the FedRAMP office, you will learn that it is a very strict process. And that process has gotten stricter over the years. It hasn't gotten easier. And yet we have accelerated the number of FedRAMP authorizations. So something's working. Right. So if I look at, you talk about 241 authorizations equated out to 2,800 reuses comes out to something like 10 reuses by 77 agencies. So, and if you equate that back to every one of those agencies having to do a ATO on their own without FedRAMP, we'd be nowhere near where we are. So my opinion here is that, you're just going to get better. And when you get better and you've learned to learn what they have and automate, and they'll continue automation. We've got OSCO now coming out, which is automation of the SSP process. I think what you're seeing is just the natural growth and the market accepting and knowing how to get through the process. There are people, there's a group of us that all work together, my peers in the industry, that we know how to do the process. Then there's people that come through that just don't know how to do it. And FedRAMP has made it much easier for them to get through it. So I think that's, I'm a little over the board with my answer, but I was trying to get across the fact that, there's a lot of factors here. But the most important is the enhancements they've made to just the knowledge base and the collaboration. It's just phenomenal these days.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll have more questions, but I want to turn over to Ranking Member Portman.